Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Hartglass, and you're listening to It's All About Food. What are we going to talk about today? Plaque and cholesterol. Sound like fun? No guest today. It's just me, sharing a lot of different thoughts that I've been having. So let's get started. On this program, whenever I've had medical doctors that are familiar with heart disease and health in general, I always bring up that I have a history of high cholesterol, around 250. And this is so surprising to me since I started on the vegetarian path at 15. I went vegan at 30, and I have been vegan for 36 years. I eat a primarily whole food plant diet. Everything we buy in the house is organic, and we don't eat out on a regular basis. I'd say maybe at the most once a week, and well, obviously daily if we're traveling. But it's always mindfully. I will indulge in things like vegan ice cream and a tiramisu if it's available and vegan. But these are treats. They're not everyday events. And relative to the rest of the population in the United States, I think I'm in the 1% of eating an ideal diet. But apparently not. And maybe I'm not collecting data, but maybe I'm eating out more frequently, or maybe I'm treating myself more frequently. I don't know, and I don't want to judge. All I know is I don't like having high cholesterol, and I'm proactive. I want to do something about it. So when I had people like Dr. Furman and Dr. Kahn on this program, I would talk about my high cholesterol, and basically they said I was doing everything that I could do. And perhaps there were different tests I could get to give a better picture of my genetic makeup or what my body was doing relative to my cholesterol. I have to say that we are all unique. And that's a good thing in some ways. And everyone is going to die. So something has to go wrong along the way. We are not meant to live forever. But still, as I said, I'm proactive. When I know there's something that isn't considered normal, I want to understand why and perhaps do something about it. Again, Dr. Furman, I belong to his member forum, and I would give my blood results there over the years. And he would always say, if you're eating his Nutritarian diet and exercising and a normal weight, don't worry about it. So I didn't, really. Maybe. I decided recently to see a cardiologist and get a calcium coronary CT scan, or a CT coronary calcium scan. I've seen those words kind of mixed up. You know what I'm talking about. And I also got a carotid duplex, and that's of the carotid artery in the neck. When I went to see Dr. Osfeld, I said, I have high cholesterol and I don't want to take a statin. And he was very serious, and he said, we'll do the test, but if I feel you need a statin, I want you to take it. And if you're not interested, then perhaps you shouldn't be my patient. And I was taken aback by that, but I was respectful, and I figured, okay, I'll have the test. I respect him. He's gone to the best schools, and I've interviewed him. He's a really nice guy, really smart. I had the tests, and here were the results. My CT coronary calcium score is 0. And I was very happy when I got that. And this means that the arteries are clear in the areas that are tested by this scan. And if they weren't clear, that would have meant that there was plaque throughout that can stiffen the arteries and make it difficult for the blood to flow, raise blood pressure, and increase the risk of heart attack. Now, they talk about the plaque that coats those arteries and becomes hard. There's this discussion about hard plaque and soft plaque. We'll talk about soft plaque in a minute, but the question is, which is more likely to cause a heart attack? If you have blood restriction in a heavily plaque-coated artery, that's more likely, or that's likely to cause a heart attack. Increase your blood pressure. People are on blood thinners to allow the blood to flow through those constricted areas. But my arteries are clear, and I was really happy to find that out. However, my carotid duplex was different, and it showed that there was mild heterogeneous plaque, both the right and left sides, and the conclusion was non-hemodynamically significant stenosis of 1 to 49%, both sides. Now, in the carotid duplex is soft plaque, and Dr. Furman is always warning about the danger of soft plaque because it could kind of lift off and cause a clot and cause a stroke. I don't want to have soft plaque. Why do I have soft plaque? Is it my high cholesterol that is causing my soft plaque? I went to Dr. Furman's forum and asked for his recommendation, and he indeed recommended, as Dr. Osfeld did, that I should take a low-dose statin. And then I said, do I have to be on this for the rest of my life? Is there anything I can do? And Furman's answer was, if you're eating a nutritarian diet and a healthy weight, there isn't much you could do. But I dug further in his forum, and they said that if you're eating the Furman nutritarian diet at a level of 90%, some people have been able to reverse their plaque. And some haven't. But much greater success was achieved at 100%. And so I took that to heart. And I decided I was going to do it 100%. I was going to commit to double the exercise that I was doing, or more, on a daily basis. And I haven't started the statin yet. And I will do it. Hey, I had cancer 17, 18 years ago, and I did chemotherapy along with a lot of alternative healing modalities. So it's not that I'm against conventional medical treatment, but I don't want to be on a drug. And if there's something that I can do to improve my health so that I don't need it, I want to do that. Now, most people will say, bring on the pill. I want my ice cream. I want to be able to go out, and that's fine. It's just not fine for me. And maybe you can appreciate that. Before my cancer diagnosis in 2006, a couple of years before that, I was doing an all raw diet. And my cholesterol was still high. And then I was doing a no-fat diet. Really, really low fat. I was not eating nuts and seeds. I was avoiding oil. And I was starving. I remember that was a really difficult time doing this practically no-fat diet. But still, my cholesterol went up during that period. So that wasn't working for me. And then sometime later, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I kind of forgot all about that. My quest for lower cholesterol. And here we are, and I now have more data. I have my carotid duplex results, which I'm not happy with, and I'm on a mission. So let's talk about the exercise first. I like to swim, run slowly, walk, yoga, lift light weights, do some calisthenics type exercises. But I don't do them enough. I'll admit it. Maybe I was doing it 3-4 times a week, 30 minutes to an hour. That's not enough. So now I do at least an hour a day. And most of the time it's walking at a fast pace. And Gary's a big walker. We walk together. It's hot now. We sweat. And I feel it. And if I do that, well, I have been doing it in conjunction with adding exercises like squats and lunges and a variety of stretches, as well as different combinations of sit-ups and push-ups and working with light weights. When I walk, I feel the benefit of those other exercises. It all works in conjunction. But I'm committed to a minimum of an hour, and I would really like to do more. And I have been doing more on different days. And it's been a week or so, and already the results are tremendous. I'm happy about it. It's what we're supposed to do. And in addition to the exercise, I prepare food in the kitchen. I'm on my feet. I'm moving around. When we shop, we usually walk to the grocery and carry our groceries back. So there's a lot of activity going on in addition to the exercise per se, which is important. I'm also a singer, and I've been committed recently to my regular practice because I have some important concerts coming up. And so that's another form of exercise, and I do that for about an hour. Okay. More exercise. The other thing is, of course, the food. And this show is called It's All About Food. So how have I improved what I've been putting in my body to attain that 100% Nutritarian, as Dr. Fuhrman calls it? I am now doing 100% SOS-free, salt-free, oil-free, sugar-free. Now, at home, primarily we have been that way, not cooking with oil. I don't cook with salt. But like I said, occasionally on a holiday or something, I might have a treat, or we might indulge and buy some vegan ice cream like Nadamu, it's organic, or the organic So Delicious vegan ice creams. And then we would go out from time to time to a vegan restaurant, and most of them are not organic, or they have some organic offerings, but all of them use salt, oil, and sugar. All of them. One of my favorite restaurants, Bodai Vegetarian Kosher on Mulberry Street. Everything in that luscious Chinese vegan cuisine is made with oil, sugar, and salt. And I learned when talking to Christine Wong recently about her phenomenal cookbook, The Vibrant Hong Kong Table. Every sauce had oil, sugar, and salt. And I've learned that the sugar is important in the balance of flavors with salt. So from a flavor perspective, I get it. But from a health perspective, maybe for me in this moment in time, it's not the best option. So the oil, the salt, and the sugar, gone. And in addition, I focus more on the diet that Dr. Fuhrman recommends. Big salad. Now, I eat a lot of salads, but maybe not every day. And now I'm committed to every day giant salads. And of course, they have the onions in them. And sometimes I add some berries. The dressing has changed. Gary and I love tahini. And tahini is a seed and it's a healthy food. But I'm looking for any possible reason why I have high cholesterol. And it could be many numerous things all adding up together. We buy our tahini. It's the Artisanal organic brand. It's very good. But it does always have oil on top when we buy it and we stir it in. Now, they say it just contains sesame. Are they adding oil when they blend the seeds together? Is there extra oil in it? Is it just oil separating? Or do we just eat too much of it? I don't really know. But for now, I'm putting that aside as a daily dressing. I might have it from time to time, but not as much. And we're making our own dressings that are seed-based for the most part, but there's no oil in it. So taking some sunflower seeds and mixing it with lemon juice, mixing it with balsamic vinegar, something like that. And I'm going a little lighter, a little thinner, a little less dressing, not as much. Because Furman also recommends calorie restriction. And I like food. I like preparing food. I am not overweight. But maybe I could be restricting my calories a little more. He also says that if you're 2 to 3 pounds overweight, that could add plaque. So I'm looking for every angle. Do you understand where I'm going with this? I am on a mission to lower my cholesterol and decrease my plaque. So let's continue. I like to have themed meals sometimes. It makes it easier for me to plan or balance what I'm putting together. So one day we had a Japanese style meal. We don't always shop at Whole Foods. It's not convenient, and I'm not a fan of Amazon, who owns Whole Foods. But we were in a Whole Foods store recently. It was on the way from going from one place to another when we were driving. And they have in the frozen section organic edamame in the pots. Such a rare find. So I bought a couple of bags. I probably should have bought more. And I steamed a bag of edamame, served it with no salt, and I made some quinoa avocado maki. I'm also being mindful about the amount of avocado I eat because I could eat a lot of guacamole, even if it's salt-free. And I'm looking more to keep it to maybe 1/4 of an avocado if I'm eating an avocado. And having maki is kind of a great way to do that because a little avocado goes a long way. Now, traditionally in Japanese fare, when sushi rice is made to go into the maki roll, you can buy a powder of vinegar and add sugar. And it's kind of a sour-sweet mixture that's mixed in with the rice. And I don't know if they add salt. Maybe they salt the water for the rice. There's always salt everywhere. When I make it, of course, I use no salt in any of my grains when I cook them in the cooking water. But I add some vinegar. And instead of sugar, we have an apricot jam that we make. It's dried organic apricots that we cook 1 pound of apricots to about 3 cups of water, blend it together, and I'll use that as a sweetener if I need to sweeten something. So I added a little of that to my quinoa, and I made the maki, and it was quite good. And then a big salad. Gotta have those big giant salads with a carrot ginger dressing. I grated some carrots. I recently started juicing ginger and taking the juice and freezing them in ice cube trays and then popping them out and keeping those small cubes in a container in the freezer. So when I want fresh ginger, I have it. Oh, that is one of the greatest things in sliced bread, in my opinion. Not that I'm eating much sliced bread these days, but frozen ginger juice is really a wonderful thing. I highly recommend it. So I put the ginger in there, the carrots, some vinegar, and we had the sunflower seed dressing from the day before, and I mixed a little of that in there too, and it made a very nice dressing. Another day, I made a ratatouille. It's the summertime. If I don't make ratatouille in the summer, that's just a crime. I take an eggplant, a couple of zucchini, a couple of bell peppers, an onion. I chop them all up and start cooking them in a Dutch oven. You can use a saucepan, a big soup pot, but I like to use the Le Creuset Dutch oven. It's a French dish. I like cooking it in a French pot. And I add to that either really juicy fresh tomatoes, or I use a can of organic, salt-free diced tomatoes, and add about 3 or 4 teaspoons of herbe de Provence. And I let that cook for a really long time, and it's just such a lovely dish. Now you can serve it with a whole grain, but I decided this time I wanted to make a flatbread. So I used garbanzo bean flour. We have flatbread recipes at Responsible Eating and Living, and I like to add some seeds on top. I put some caraway seeds on top. I flavor it typically with onion powder, garlic powder, coriander. Some people think garbanzo bean flour has a beany taste. It is a bean, but I think the spices mellow it out and blend well with the flavor of the flour. So that's really good. And of course, there was a big salad with that. And the ratatouille lasts for a few days. There are numerous servings in there, so it's a nice thing to make. And then you can have it hot the first time. And it's also traditionally served cold. So that's what makes it nice in the summer, because it's delicious cold as well. My big treat for the week was a pumpkin seed encrusted tofu with a big salad and corn on the cob. I took the tofu. I dipped it in a mixture of cashew yogurt dressing. So it wasn't entirely cashew yogurt. It was cashew yogurt mixed with vinegar and some flavorings that we had used as a salad dressing. So again, I want to underline, I'm not using as much or as many nuts and seeds in my dressings anymore. I am using some, but less, with the concept of calorie restriction in the back of my mind. So this made a dip to dip the tofu in, and then I made a breading of pumpkin seed, basil, and nutritional yeast. And normally I use more pumpkin seeds. I think I might have used 2 tablespoons. It wasn't a lot. And I used maybe a tablespoon of dried basil and nutritional yeast. And I dipped the pieces of tofu in it and then baked it for a half hour. And I also had some oyster mushrooms. Now Gary doesn't like mushrooms, so I made a few for me that I put in the dipping and the breading and baked those as well. We found organic corn on the cob at our local organic store. Now this is a treat because organic corn on the cob is outrageously expensive. But I can't bring myself to buy and eat corn on the cob anymore if it's conventional, industrial. It's very likely a genetically modified strain grown with pesticides, herbicides. I don't know. I just don't want that in my body. So I either buy frozen organic corn kernels for my corn fix, and then as a treat, and it really is a treat, organic corn on the cob. Sometimes they're like $1 or $1.49 each. Right? So it's a splurge. It's a sweet treat. The corn was so sweet. And we don't put anything on it. You don't need to. When I was young, of course, corn was happily served with butter and salt. We'd rub the butter all around it. We'd use our those corn handlers on the sides and sprinkle it with salt. I don't need that anymore, and I really prefer it this way. Quality corn, sweet in every bite. Some of the other meals during the week, for lunch or for breakfast even, I made a big pot of split pea soup. Split peas have a tremendous amount of flavor, all on their own. Of course, we buy them organic. We get our beans in bulk from a company called Food to Live. They're based in Brooklyn. I'm not sure where they get all of their bulk foods from, where they source them from, but the quality is outstanding. And because we live in New York City, we get the deliveries really quickly. So we'll buy 8 pounds, 10 pounds of a variety of different beans, and the same with our garbanzo bean flour, which is organic. And let me, now that I'm kind of free thinking here. Garbanzo bean flour. I mentioned making flatbread. I'll get back to the split pea soup in a minute. But garbanzo bean flour, if you don't buy it organic, it's been tested and shown to have high levels of toxic residues from biocides. That's my name for pesticides and herbicides. And I was surprised to see that because I thought originally it was just the grains like wheat and oats that were found to have high levels of residue if you didn't buy them organic. But no, the beans have them too, and our garbanzo beans have them too. So when I discovered that, I started going organic on the garbanzo bean flour. And now we buy it in bulk from Food to Live. Back to the split pea soup. I made a lot of it. It was the first time I made soup in my Instant Pot. Normally I just cook plain beans in the Instant Pot, but I made the whole soup in there with carrots, onions, and celery, the traditional base that you put in most soups because they add a very nice flavor profile. And then I have some spices that I always throw in: turmeric, onion powder, garlic powder. I think I put in a smoky paprika. I like to add that to split pea. It kind of is my answer or my substitution to the ham portion that is traditionally added to split pea for split pea soup. And it's so much better, smoked paprika, than ham. And of course, there's no oil in that soup. I made a lot and put it in the refrigerator. And I've been having it for lunch, for breakfast. It's been hot out. Sometimes I have it cold. And it's, for me, a bowl of that is so satisfying. Now, Gary's not the same. And he's been very supportive during this new regime that we're in of salt, oil, and sugar-free, and focusing 100% on the nutritarian style of eating. But there are some things that I prefer that he doesn't go for. He's not into a bowl of split pea soup for breakfast, and that's fine. We also, for breakfast, have these big fruit bowls. Might be a chopped apple, a chopped nectarine, some berries, bananas. Sometimes there's a little cashew yogurt in there, sometimes not. Gary likes to add oatmeal to his. Right now I'm watching how much grain I consume, so I'm skipping the oats. But right now in the summer, I'm really enjoying lots of fruit in the morning. I've also been doing some smoothies. I made a mango, kale, soy milk, banana smoothie, and the kale was from my little terrace garden. I have 2 heads of kale growing in pots. It's not a prolific harvest, but it's really fun when I can harvest 4 or 5 leaves and put it in a smoothie, right? In addition to these meals that I've been talking about, every few days we have a green juice. I made maybe 8 or 10 servings of green juice at the beginning of the week and froze them so they're there for us when we want them. And they're very strong. It's like having a whiskey or something because there's so much ginger in them. And I love that. So you could drink it full strength or add some water to it. But that's another part of the program. And I've always been a big advocate of green juice. This current green juice, in addition to ginger, had lots of celery and kale and collard greens and carrots and beets. I like to change it up a little bit. Normally there's lemon in it, but for some reason I didn't think we had any and didn't put any in, even though we did have some, and I felt really silly afterwards. But next time. And when I'm planning to make a green juice, if I don't have any straight ginger juice left in the freezer, as I mentioned before, I like to have ginger juice that I freeze in cubes. I'll juice the ginger first and collect that for my ginger juice and then make my green juice. So I don't have to clean the juicer twice when making different kinds of juicers. And plus my green juice has ginger in it, so I'll make some straight ginger juice and then leave some over for my green juice. There's a lot of preparation in all of this food, and it can make a goal of wanting to eat healthfully challenging. Many people have full lives, and there doesn't seem to be time to do all of these things. It's so much more convenient to go out, buy prepared food, and enjoy it. And that may work for many people. But the best way to manage eating this salt, oil, sugar-free, ferment-style nutritarian diet is to be organized and plan in advance and try and figure out how to multitask. There are things that can be done at the same time while something is cooking, something else can be prepared, and that requires some forethought. And it can help save time. So like I just mentioned, I make the ginger juice and then I make my green juice so I don't have to clean the juicer twice. And if you're asking yourself, what kind of juicer does she use? Good question. For a long time, I used a Breville Juice Fountain Elite. It was a gift when I was going through cancer, and it really saved my life. I juiced every day for 10 years. I'm getting choked up thinking about it. And I replaced some of the parts, and it still works. But I have moved on to a masticating type of juicer by Omega. I have a J8006 HDS or an HDC. I'm not sure. I'm looking at the instruction guide. I like it. I think it's a little easier to clean. And it's a Zen-like experience for me because it's quiet. The masticating juicer, as opposed to a centrifugal operating juicer, chews the food, and you can hear the chew, the yum, 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 instead of it's quieter, it's peaceful, and I get into a meditative mode when I juice. It takes about an hour to prepare my vegetables, juice the vegetables, clean the juicer, put the juice in jars, and then I freeze them. And that's why I make a week's worth, a week or 2 weeks worth, because an hour is a considerable amount of time. But then it's done. Well, on the subject of juicing, let's move to beverages. It's the summer, it's hot, hydrating is important. You don't want to drink too much because you don't want to lose electrolytes from your body. So there's a balance. It's important to drink when you're thirsty and perhaps after exercise and sweating. But don't drink too much, just enough. So what am I drinking? I like to make a hibiscus tea. And I do it, I don't brew it, or I cold brew it. So I have a jar with a tea basket that fits nicely in it. I put a tablespoon of hibiscus tea in it, fill it with water. There's maybe 4 cups of water in this jar. I cover it and put it in the refrigerator. And then it doesn't take very long to cold brew. And it's there, chilled, lovely. And I enjoy that throughout the day. I also read somewhere that hibiscus tea can help with lowering cholesterol, so I'm all in for that. And then sometimes I might have a jasmine tea. We like teachino. And then there's water and sparkling water. We do have one of those soda fountain things where you make your own sparkling water, and that's fun. We use a lot of fresh lemons and limes, and I always save the rinds after juicing them. The juice typically goes into a salad dressing or flavoring some food. I like to put the rinds in my water. Now let's talk about flax seeds. I've known for decades now that we're supposed to consume 2 tablespoons of ground flax or chia seeds per day. I've known this. Have I done it? No. I will have flax seeds sometimes, but not every day. And maybe there were weeks that I didn't have any. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. I thought I was healthy enough and didn't need it. But apparently, I am one of these persons that has high cholesterol, or my liver likes to make cholesterol. So I am now committed to 2 tablespoons of flax seeds every day. I'm not always sure where I'm going to have it. Sometimes I'll mix it with my chopped fruit in the morning. Sometimes I'll put it on a salad. But if I find at dinner time I haven't had it yet, then I put 2 tablespoons in a small dish and make sure it goes on everything so that I eat it, because it's important. As you may know, flax seeds are a rich source of alpha-linolenic acid, and flax seeds have been shown to lower LDL cholesterol. That's my problem. So I'm hoping that these flax seeds will do their magic. And of course, I keep saying ground flax seeds. They have to be ground. I recommend buying the whole seed, either brown or golden, doesn't matter, and grinding them yourself. I like to grind the entire bag and put it in the freezer, then I'm good to go. Chia seeds I like as well, but I don't want to grind them. They're absorbed better when ground or soaked, so I like to soak them. I like to make a chia pudding, and that's another possible breakfast. A couple of tablespoons of chia seeds soaked in a liquid. I use half a cup of soy milk and a pile of berries, and I leave that Some people do it overnight, but I find you could do it for an hour and it's ready to go. It's easy and it's very good. Back to that garbanzo bean flour flatbread I had made this week. I had ordered baking paper because we were out and I couldn't make it until the baking paper arrived because I can't make a flatbread without baking paper. It'll stick to the pan. And fortunately, just when I really wanted to make it, the baking paper arrived, and so I could make it. But then it made me think I would like to be making some other foods like my buckwheat crepe. Now, my buckwheat crepe is made with raw buckwheat, and that's it, and water. There's nothing else in it, but I've been making it in a cast iron crepe pan, and I always spread a little oil on the bottom of the pan, and right now that oil is a no-no. So I thought, here we go. I have to buy something new here with this new adventure we're on, and that meant a non-stick frying pan. So I spent maybe a couple of hours. I spent a while looking at what was available today. The last time I had looked into nonstick pans was when I was working with John and Ocean Robbins at the Food Revolution Network, and we were putting together the plant-powered course that we had done some time ago. And we had a section on what you need to stock your kitchen with, and one of them was nonstick pans. And at the time, I was recommending Oziri. So that was the first one I looked at, and it looked pretty good. And I was considering going for it. My concern was that all of the pans that I was looking at that were non-stick said that you should use a little oil. And I didn't want to use any oil, but nobody says you can use their pans with no oil. So I just kept reading, and I came upon Sensarte. Have you heard of Sensarte? And I ended up buying a 12.5 inch fry pan of Sensarte, and it has a nonstick coating. It's imported from Switzerland. They say it's 100% free of all the bad guys, PFOA, PFAS, APO, all the acronyms. I got it pretty quickly, and I went to use it, and I really like it. I made my buckwheat crepes, and it was just buckwheat, nothing else. I served it with fresh berries and a little cashew yogurt, and it was quite good. So here's the trick about non-stick pans. Some people say they don't last very long. I read the instructions, and I'm going to be very careful and follow them. The first thing, obviously, I think most people know with these types of pans, you cannot use a metal spatula. You need to get a silicone spatula. Wood can be used as well, but I don't think there are any really thin wooden utensils to flip a crepe. So I got a silicone spatula, and I have my nonstick pan. They talk about not turning it on high right away, that you should cook on medium high. And I believe the reason is that the aluminum underneath is going to expand at a different rate than the porcelain coating. So you want to heat the pan up slowly and gently so that the porcelain isn't stressed. Because if it's going to get stressed on a regular basis, it's going to degrade and chip. So I'm mindfully telling myself when I cook with this pan to heat it up slowly. They also said that something should be in the pan when you're heating it up, like a little oil. Well, I don't want to use oil. So I put about a half a cup of water in the pan. So there's something in the pan, I'm heating it up slowly, and when I finally see the water bubbling, I know it's hot. I poured out the water and poured in my batter. Happy Karen. I had my buckwheat crepes. It worked really, really well. Now on the other side, when I was done, this was kind of fun. There's something called a deglazing technique. When you're frying something up, things start to stick to the pan. And what you do is you add a little water or broth and move the contents of the pan around, and it picks up the stuff that has stuck. It adds a little flavor, it cleans the pan, and you have to do this at a high temperature. And I had noticed with my crepe making that there were little very faint brown circles already on the pan. And I was thinking they'll probably wash off. But when I made my last crepe, when I was all done with it, I just carefully moved it around the pan and it worked like a sponge and it removed the lines in the pan. When I was all done, I let the pan cool. Very often when I'm done with the pot, I just throw it in the sink and I wash it. I like to get all my pots out of the way so that there isn't a big mess after the meal. But with this pan, I'm going to let it naturally cool so I don't overstress the two materials that are working together, the nonstick coating and the metal underneath. And it came perfectly clean with cold water. That's my Sense Arte. I've used it once, so I'm not sure how it's going to fare over time, but it made me very happy. The last thing I want to talk about in this a new adventure that I'm going in. I like to call it an adventure. I want to keep it positive, even though it is extremely challenging. There is an exceptionally challenging part, and that is going out. Because I think more than any other type of diet or any type of regiment, the salt, oil, sugar-free is the most difficult. Eating vegan right now is easy peasy, especially in big cities. There are so many wonderful restaurants with great food and other restaurants that are offering vegan options. It's easy to eat vegan, but all restaurants use salt, oil, and sugar, and to go out and to feel like you're a participant in a social event, it's difficult. I'm going to admit that. I want to put it out there for people who want to do this. It's hard. And I can't say that I have any great advice here. We went to a party with some people and we recommended the place to go, not because of the food they offered, but I just thought it was a good place to be where we could all order our different things and nobody really cared about what anybody else was doing. It was an outdoor beer garden. We don't drink alcohol. We had our sparkling waters with a splash of pineapple juice. It was quite lovely and festive. And ultimately, we ended up ordering plain salads with no dressing. It was mixed baby greens with red onion and walnuts and tomatoes. And it was fine. But it can be uncomfortable for the person who is following the regimen, but also for the people around you, because they want to see everyone celebrating with food, which is something that we all do. We celebrate with food. And it's kind of ironic that we celebrate with food that doesn't nourish us, that we celebrate with food that isn't good for us, that we celebrate with food that harms us. We are such a strange species. But just like in the old days, when there weren't vegan restaurants, where there weren't vegan options, we could always get a salad with or without dressing, a baked potato, brown rice, steamed vegetables, and that's what's available if you want to eat salt, sugar, oil free. Except there are more places for smoothies and bowls. There are places now that offer acai bowls or fruit bowls that have fresh fruit and oatmeal. They offer protein powders and other things that you can ask to be left off. And there are smoothie places. You have to be careful with smoothie places because many of them use juice or sweeten things, and perhaps you can find a place, or perhaps I can find a place, that just uses fruit and a plant milk that's unsweetened so that there's no oil, sugar, or salt. Those options exist. We're wanting to travel, and one of the delights of traveling was discovering different vegan restaurants and what wonderful, artful, delicious creations they would come up with. And the tiramisu. And I think I'm going to have to give the tiramisu up, at least for a time being, until I see if there are tangible benefits from this cholesterol-lowering, plaque-reducing project that I have taken on. So now what I think I'm going to do is, if we're planning to visit an area, I will have to do a lot of work ahead of time. Visit happycow.net, check out the vegan restaurants, and check out the menus and see if there are things that I can put together that would be satisfying, but also meet my new requirements. So that's going to be a bit of a task. What I want to say is, I get it. It's hard. And I am experiencing a challenge right now. So I get it no matter where you are on the food continuum and wanting to make a change in your diet. It's challenging. With your schedule, with your family, with what's accessible, what's within your budget. Consuming the best foods for your condition may not be easy. And I understand how most people just want to go with a pill. I'm not one of those people. I'm hoping that I learn from this experience. I'm hoping that I learn how to make things easier. I'm hoping that I learn to be part of society. And I'm able to mix in well at social engagements without much fuss while still sticking to these requirements. I know there have been numerous programs that have helped people move to a vegan diet, and people are so excited with the results. People that have diabetes, have weight problems, a variety of conditions, and they get off their meds, they lose weight, they're excited, and then they go home. And it's hard. And they don't stick with it. They don't stick with it 100%. In some ways, all of society needs to move to a place where we're all eating what's best for our bodies. If that was the case, the most healthiest foods would be accessible. They'd be affordable. They'd be offered in restaurants. It would be easier, but we're not there. But maybe some of us can do our part by showing the way, how it's done and how much good it can do. Not just for our own personal health, but for the environment and for all life on Earth. For now, I'm sticking with this. I'm excited. Already I've lost a few pounds. I'm feeling strong. I'm feeling energetic. And it's funny because I always say you never know how good you can feel unless you try a vegan diet. Well, you can always feel better, apparently. You don't know how good you can feel with another improvement. Taking care of your body. We are meant to experience joy. We are meant to feel good. So in some ways, I'm getting this inspiration, this motivation from the results I'm seeing in a very short amount of time. Now we'll see if I can lower my cholesterol and reduce that plaque. But it's going to take time because I don't plan on having another carotid duplex test for another year. I could check my cholesterol on a regular basis. I'm not sure if I want to do that. That could get a little obsessive. For now, I'm just sticking with the plan. For anyone out there that has done the salt, oil, sugar-free routine with a vegan diet and has tips, bring them on. I need all the help I can get. I have 2 Ramsey Bravo cookbooks. I've interviewed him a number of times on this program. I don't really have that much problem making the meals at home. As I've said before, I reviewed some of the meals I've made. It's kind of fun to have the challenge to make something satisfying and flavorful while also meeting the new requirements. No, my biggest challenge is going out of the house, being social, and finding things to enjoy with the people that I'm with and not look too weird. That's my show for today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. This has been It's All About Food. I am your host, Karen Hartglass. Find recipes and all of our programs archived at responsibleeatingandliving.com. Email me, please, at info@realmeals.org if you have any feedback to what we discussed in this program today. I'd love to hear it. info@realmeals.org. In the meantime, no matter what you're eating, no matter where you are on the food continuum, when you put something in your mouth, tell your body, take the good and let the rest go. And with that, have a delicious week.